Embrace your curves, love every part. Big thighs, big heart. Stand tall, shine bright. You're a star on my night. Big thighs, matter, don't you see? Beauty in all shapes, that's the key. Confidence in every stride. Big thighs matter, let your light shine. Stretch marks, beauty lines. Each one tells a story so divine. Embrace your body, love your skin. In a world of standards, let self-love win. Big thighs matter, don't you see? Beauty in all shapes, that's the key. Confidence.
Hey, this is Kimberly Beasley with Thick Thighs Matter podcast. Today, listen, you guys, today I have a treat here today. This is my first local here in Augusta interview, and this one will not disappoint. I call her the nonprofit czar because she is the expert in anything nonprofit, but that's more to her than just being a nonprofit czar. This is Marquitta Rucker, and she is an amazing woman. Name of one of her nonprofits is SWAT. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Yes, she is absolutely amazing. So we're going to get into her today. We're going to find out about her life, where she's from, her kids, all of those great things to get to know her on the inside, and then you'll definitely want to support her on the outside. She is everywhere in the streets. Every time you go to the event, you're going to see her show up there. Whether she's there 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, or the whole time, she makes an effort to support each and every person in the city of Augusta, and I love that about her. So I would just love to get a nice welcome from everybody for Mrs. Marquitta Rucker here. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
Look, this is too fun. I know this is too fun, right?
Yes.
So what I've been watching you for a long while, and you know that, and I always say little comments here and there. And I want to start off. I have to start off with this story because it's hilarious. So I have a nonprofit, Columbia County Health, Fitness, and Wellness that I do up in Grovetown, Evans area, and so. I started about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and I was doing a couple of things. I was doing the Health Expo. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, me wanting to talk to the nonprofit czar about how can I get funding, how can I do this, how can I do that. And so she was very direct with me, and she was like, yeah, you got to have a program first. And I was like, oh, okay. and so she didn't say it in any malice. She just gave me facts. That if you're looking to get funding, you have to be able to quantify what you're doing and how that what you're doing in the community affects the community, what effect you have. You have to have the data, you have to have the information, you have to have the facts, you have to have a program. And so she said, not an event. And what I was doing at the time was an event. And she was like, you're going to have to do some programs, going to have some data. So me being me, if anybody who knows me knows, I kind of took a little offense to that. Not because anything she did, but because my little insecurities, because I really was trying to be the little engine that could, and I was like, oh goodness. And so she really, with that one comment, she challenged me to do better and be better. And so I developed programs. And one of the programs I developed, I partnered with Piedmont with the mammogram bus. And so I started trying to bring that mammogram bus around in different areas. And we started affecting lives, like two or three people that we have done with the mammogram bus thus far. They have found like benign cells that what they would have never found if not for us pushing to do the to partner with Piedmont and pushing people to get mammograms. And so I always contribute that back to Marquitta because Marquitta challenged me to do programs. You're doing something really great, but let's quantify what you're doing. Do more. And I really do appreciate that about you. So thank you so much.
I'm proud of you.
Look, and I had to say it took me a year now. I ain't gonna lie. It took me a year. It took me a whole year to come back and tell her that she offended me with that. But because she did that, it challenged me and pushed me to do what I'm doing today. And so I'm so appreciative of that. And I never stopped giving truth in love because you didn't give it to me in a bad way. You gave it to me with love. Okay. I took it as, who's she talking to? You know who I am? No, we don't know who you are. That's why you need to do a program. But to talk about you, so where are you from?
I am from Elberton, Georgia.
Where's that at?
Elberton, Georgia is it's close to Tigno, Georgia, which is like on the other side of Washington Wilkes. It's close to Lincoln. Most people here know where Lincoln, Georgia is. You
Okay.
go over the bridge, the huge bridge out of Evans, and that takes you to Elberton. Um,
Wow.
However, if you know what UGA is, I'm about 20, 30 minutes from UGA.
Wow. Okay. Now you said okay, 20 minutes from you. So you're out there in close to Athens.
Yes, Elberton is close to
Okay,
Athens.
great. That's great. So UGA, that's where now I haven't been up there in a while, but that's where they have the Bulldogs all over the
Yes,
city.
Georgia
So you're a
Bulldogs.
Bulldog fan.
Absolutely.
Are you sure about that?
Absolutely.
Listen, now you can now which one is it? So when they do the border bash, how do you feel about that?
I still have to go with Georgia
I know
Bulldogs.
that's right. True through and through, huh?
Yes.
Look, so how about with the football league? Are you a Falcons fan or you just stick with college?
Oh, Falcons are okay. They okay.
Now, most people that really love college football, they do not like the NFL.
It's okay. I I do not follow a lot of the NFL. However, I will say this: Miko Hartman is from Elberton. He
Okay.
plays for. He used to play for the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know if he's still there, but if that's where he is, that's what I'm rooting for, because he's from my hometown too.
Well, go ahead then. That's go. Now, I have a cousin who played. I believe he played for UGA. I believe he played for. God, I'm gonna think of his name. We like distant cousins, but he went for UGA, and then he ended up playing for the Saints, and
Okay.
then he ended up winning the Super Bowl.
All
But we are
right.
like distant. Like when I say distant cousins, like the fact that I can't even remember his name right now is Charles Grant.
All
That's
right. Go Charles.
Charles Grant. That I think he went to UGA. I'm not either that or the one in Atlanta. I'm not sure, but yeah, I have a cousin that was NFL. But so being from there, how did you end up here in Augusta?
So I ended up here in Augusta. I was actually going to school at Georgia Southern, and my mom got sick.
Mm.
My mom was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and so I'm an only child. My dad was still working at the time, and so I needed to come home and be closer to my mom to help be her caregiver. So I transferred from Georgia Southern
Mm.
to Augusta State so that I can continue school and help my dad out and care for my mom.
That's awesome. And you have a degree in?
So I have my master's in
Ooh,
educational leadership.
go ahead, did master. Go ahead, master. I love it.
Yeah.
So how did you? Well, before we go into you being a nonprofit, we'll talk about your family life. So
Okay.
you have 3 children.
I do. I have 3 beautiful girls. I
All of them are
have
girls.
all girls.
All girls.
Pray for me, y'all.
Yes, God.
I have an 18-year-old. Her name, we call her Bug. She is actually getting ready to go to college on Friday. She'll be going to Kennesaw State. She'll be studying biology, and then she'll go on to medical school. She wants to pursue a career as
Wow.
a pediatrician. And I'm so very proud of her. And I have a 16-year-old. She actually attends the Marion Barnes Career Center. She wants to become a master cosmetologist. She did my hair today,
How
y'all.
beautiful.
And then I have a 8-year-old. We call her Peanut. She is very busy. But one thing,
We ain't talking about that. What school Peanut go to?
Peanut goes to Lake Forest
Okay.
Elementary. One thing that I really, really love about my girls is that all 3 of them are business owners as well. My oldest has her own business. She makes learning boards. We craft learning boards specifically for that individual. Like parents will tell us, this is what I want, this is what I want my kid to work on, and then we craft a board to what their specific learning needs are. My middle kid, my grandma has a secret pound cake recipe and she passes it down. And so I passed it on to my middle baby. And so she actually makes pound cakes and lemonade. And her business is called Emily's Sweet Shop. Um, my Kira's business is called MA's Collections. I didn't say that. And then Peanut has a nonprofit called Peanut's Reading Corner. And so Peanuts Reading Corner is it was born out of a little crazy situation. So 2 years ago, her school participated in a book exchange. And I think it was like a $10 limit or something. So we went to Target and got her person some books. And she came home the next day and she's like, this person gave me this toe up book. It's written in, it's colored in, the pages are missing. And I gave Taylor brand new books. I'm going to school tomorrow and I'm telling her that we are not friends anymore. And I said, Peanut,
Oh,
don't go to school and do that. I
Peanut
said,
is cutthroat.
yes. I said, it's fine. I said, I can get you some books. It's no big deal. And she came home the next day. She was like, Mama, I was on the playground and I know you said don't tell Taylor that, but I told her we were not friends. And she said, guess what? I said, what? And she said, Taylor's parents are in jail. Her mama and her dad. They're both in jail. And she stays with her grandmother. And she told me, I gave you what I had. And she said,
Wow.
why doesn't her grandmother go to work? Like, why doesn't her grandmother make sure she has some brand new books? And I said, well, Peanut, I don't know what their living situation is. Everybody's not as blessed as you are to have access to books at home. So that's why I always tell you, consider yourself blessed. But that situation bothered her for a while. And I'm like, okay, Peanut, well, what do you want to do about it? We've talked about it, we've discussed it. What else do you want me to do? So she's like, I want you to buy my friends some books. Like, all of my friends who don't have books, I want you to get them some. And I'm like, yeah, no, I can't do that. And so I started doing some research because, as we'll talk about later, we have an education program too. But I started looking at the lack of access to literacy in our local community. How many children actually do not have access to books? So for her birthday, I gifted her a nonprofit and we named it Peanuts Reading Corner. And all she does is she collects books throughout the year and then she distributes them to children who she finds out do not have access to books. And this is her second year in existence, and she has distributed over 1,000 books to children within the CSRA, and she makes me proud.
I'm floored by that. I am absolutely floored by Peanut. Listen, all your girls are really doing great, but that Peanut, that really bothered her.
Yes, that
That they, first of all, Peanut don't play. I like that.
no.
Peanut does not play. I love that she was like, hold on, I went and got you some good books, and this what you gave me. But I like the exchange of the kids that said, well, why you give me this toy book? She's that's all I had.
Yeah,
My mom in jail, my daddy in jail, and this is all I had to give
right.
you. And so that sparked something in her and it wouldn't let go. So where do your daughters get it from? All this entrepreneurial spirit.
So, SWAT actually is a nonprofit that I am the CEO and founder of, but SWAT actually just landed in my lap because it wasn't my dream to actually run SWAT. My dream job was I'm somebody's principal somewhere or I'm writing a STEM curriculum somewhere. So, for a couple of years, I was a teacher in Richmond County. And after my mom passed, because SWAT was actually something that my mom started in Elberton, Georgia,
Oh,
in our local
wow.
church. She wanted to help the elderly. She wanted to make sure that they could get their medicine. She wanted to make sure that they had access to rides and help cleaning up their homes. And so after she passed from cancer, I just felt like it was my responsibility to continue her legacy. So I picked it up and I made SWAT a legal entity. We became a 501c3 nonprofit. And for the first 4 years of existence, we focused on helping people who had been impacted by cancer, hosting health fairs, making sure that people had access to medical insurance, making sure that people in rural areas had access to quality screening. Because for me, I feel like my mom was diagnosed late because we were driving an hour to get oncology screenings because my hometown didn't have the ability to properly screen her. So for years, she walked around not knowing what was
Wow.
wrong. And so I felt like if we can save somebody else's life
Amen.
by making sure they can get screened right here, then we've done our job. And so as I began to expand into the Augusta area, I saw that it was overly saturated with people who were already helping people who were impacted by cancer. And so when you get into funding, you'll find out that funders don't like to fund things that people are already doing, because they want to know, like, why aren't you partnering? Why, if this person over here is helping people who are impacted by cancer, what are you doing differently? What gap are you filling in? And if you're not filling in any gaps, then you don't get funded. And sometimes it's not easy when you're new to this town or when you're new to the nonprofit sector to partner, because, you know, in order for somebody to properly vet you, they have to know you. And without knowing who you are, what you're capable of, sometimes it's just harder to partner. And so we found those issues. So I'm like, okay, board, we're going to have to put our heads together to see what other needs are out here that aren't being tapped into that we can actually do. And so at the time, I was still teaching full-time in a classroom. And then I began to look at how many kids were coming to school without school supplies and how that impacted their academic achievement. And we started looking at test scores. And at that time, when we started looking at test scores, 3rd, 5th, and 8th graders were reading under 30% proficient.
Wow.
And even in math, the numbers were kind of the same. And I'm like, there are several factors that impact those numbers. There's home life, there's nutrition, there's all kind of barriers that impact that. But one thing that we can do something about is make sure that those kids get the tools that they need to be successful. We can control that. So we started a Retool the School campaign where we would make sure kids going back to school could have school supplies and wraparound services such as health screenings. I've seen children not do well because we would find out they couldn't see.
Yeah.
Or they couldn't hear.
Yeah.
And then if my parents don't have a car, or if my grandparents don't have a car, how can they get me to the doctor to find out that all year long I've not succeeded because I haven't done well on my work because I couldn't see it.
I just needed a pair of glasses.
I just needed a pair of glasses
to help me.
Or I couldn't hear it. I couldn't hear the teacher. I couldn't hear what she was saying. And so now we include those screenings in what we do. We want to make sure that we're being a one-stop shop for parents who have transportation barriers. You don't realize that when parents are coming to get something, they don't always have the ability to say, hey, when you leave here, go to the health department and get the immunizations.
Absolutely.
Because maybe I caught a ride here. Maybe I caught the bus. Maybe I spent my last money getting here.
Maybe I don't have the time.
Right. Maybe I don't have the time
because I'm on my lunch break.
Right.
And I'm just trying to get these book bags and stuff so my kids can be okay. But if I can get everything here and taken care of, and that's how us moms think most of the time too.
Absolutely.
Let me get someplace and get everything I need, because my time is very limited.
Absolutely.
And then let me do what I need to do for my kids, and then I can get back to doing whatever else I need to do.
So back to how we got started. And so that's how Retool the School was born. And then I felt like God was telling me that I still needed to do more. And so I started researching the income in this area. Like, why are these kids coming back to school without school supplies? Like, what are the barriers that lead to this?
Yes.
And so we started looking at the income for this area.
Yeah.
There are so many people who live below the federal poverty guidelines. And at the time, I think it was like $23,000, which is nothing. That's nothing. And then the average family size here is 4. So most people are trying to survive off of, I think the numbers were about 40% of people were surviving off of $23,000 or less with 4+ people in their homes. That's nothing.
Barely
That's
living.
like $1,900 trying to take care of 4 people. Like, my kids probably eat $1,900. They probably eat $1,900. So to know that families were surviving off of that, I was like, okay, now we need to do something about that. So we created a program for new and expectant moms where we could help them from the beginning. So I became a certified car seat technician. So we started doing like car seat education, making sure that you're actually being safe getting to school. We're making sure that your children have the correct car seat, and we provide like diapers, wipes, education, and then we partner with people who actually teach parents. You're your child's first teacher. Like, don't leave everything up to the school, because as teachers we can't do everything. So we had to actually start partnering with people who offer those services where they can actually teach parents that you are the first teacher. In addition to that, we provide winter essentials, making sure that the kids have coats, hats, gloves, scarves, and all of that during the winter. And then we also provide winter essentials. Um, but then what we noticed is the numbers kept growing. Like, the numbers never went down. Every year we noticed that we needed to serve more and more people. And I'm like, yeah, y'all, we need to be a hand up and not a handout.
Well, Ms. Rucker, let me ask you, is this before or after the pandemic? Did you see these numbers?
So before, it was kind of like before and after. So before the pandemic, not as much. But after the pandemic, definitely. The numbers definitely skyrocketed. So it was during the pandemic where we saw a lot of people suffering with job loss.
Wow.
Specifically women, because more women were having to go home because kids were sick and had to stay home. Schools were closing. And guess what? Mom has to stay home as well. And then jobs that had to remain open, they had to have essential workers.
Yes.
But guess what? My children come first.
Absolutely.
So those women were having to stay at home and have loss of jobs and loss of income. So that, coupled with what we were seeing, the numbers on the rise, I'm like, y'all, we got to do something. We got to make sure that we're being a hand up and not a hand out. So that's how Influencer was born.
Okay.
Because I'm like, we want to be able to give these women a sense of self-sufficiency, that they don't have to rely on us. We actually want to work ourselves out of a job. We want to make sure that we are giving them the tools that they need. That I know it can look like you just all over the place. You got your hands in education.
Oh, absolutely
You
not.
got your hands in helping women and children, and now you're doing entrepreneurship. But to me, it's like a full circle.
It is,
because
absolutely.
you can't talk to somebody about being self-sufficient if their lights are about to be cut off.
Absolutely.
You can't talk to somebody about being self-sufficient if their basic needs aren't being met. So to me, it's like SWAT provides those basic needs, and then in addition to that, once we have your tangible needs met, then we can come over here and talk to you and say, hey sis, we've helped you, we provided those resources that you need. Now let us help you step it up and help you start your own business. And that's nothing against corporate America, because you can still work, but if it doesn't work out, you still have something that you can fall back on, because there was so many women that lost those jobs that had just brought new cars, that had just brought new homes,
Right.
that didn't have anything to fall back on.
And it also gives you the freedom as a
Right.
mother to be able to be there for your child. You don't have to
Absolutely.
choose.
Absolutely.
You don't have to say, okay, what am I doing? I'm going to have to clock in, or I'm going to stay home with my sick child.
Absolutely.
Or I'm going to have to call somebody to backfill me to take care of my child.
Absolutely.
You know, and sometimes as a mom, you get torn.
Absolutely.
So the fact that you are helping women into freedom, because they say if you educate a woman, you educate a village.
That's right.
So if you're doing that, you're helping, you're educating them. So everybody around them is going to feel the ripple of that education. And also, now I'm only going to educate you, I'm going to elevate you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then from that, we're all going to be free.
Absolutely.
All of us will be able to be free, because we all, as women, we pass that stuff down. Just like your daughters, they see the moves that you're making, and now that's why they're making the moves that they're making.
Absolutely.
They didn't just pluck that out the sky. They see their mama working. So mama working like this, I'm working like this.
Right.
And it's absolutely amazing to see. Now, wait a minute. You got on the SWAT. We got to go back to SWAT. What does SWAT stand for?
So SWAT stands for Servants with a Testimony.
Oh, I didn't know that. Listen, service with a testimony. I love that. Did you guys get that? Now, when you see SWAT, that's a whole different SWAT now. I know the SWAT we know about, the ones on the roof, the shooters. But this one is different. This is servants with a testimony, and that's absolutely. What is your outside of everything? that you just said, which is an absolute mouthful. And I know there's more that you do. What prompted you to go even into, now I know you talked about your mom and you wanted to carry her legacy on, which I feel is absolutely amazing. That this was something that your mom started and you picked it up. And I know she's proud of you because you picked it up and you running hard with it. She probably like, go baby, go. She like, you better go baby. And you doing it. And to be her only child, I know to feel the weight. Ain't nobody else gonna carry this thing but me because it's my mama. So I get it. But other than that, this is your mom's situation. What is your testimony that links you to SWAT?
So honestly, before 2 years ago, I've always said SWAT is just something that my mom started and I continued the legacy. But God said, well, I'm going to give you your testimony. So about 2 years ago in 2021, I guess, I started not feeling well. But as a mom, we put everybody before us. And as a business owner, I continue to put everything on the back burner. I was like, I'll go to the doctor later. And so in May, it had got really, really bad that I really wasn't feeling good. And my body was just worn down. And so I finally went to the doctor. And he said, well, I'm going to have to send you to a specialist. So at this time, it was still like pre-COVID 2 years ago, what post-COVID 2 years ago, but still operating rooms were closed. There were so many doctors' offices that still weren't letting people in. And the wait to see specialists was long because this was in May. My appointment wasn't until August. So they
You see me like, good grief.
So basically they was like, hang in there.
Hold on.
And yeah, just hold on. We'll see you in August. And the specialist that I needed to see, there's only one specialist like that in this area. So June, May 30th, if I'm not mistaken. May 30th. I was laying in my bed and the pain had gotten so intense that I was like, I'm getting ready to leave you. I'm about to die. And I still got up and I said, I gotta clean this house up before I leave here. I don't want people to come in this house.
That's black women right there. We're going to make sure we got on some clean drawers. And our house is clean before we die. Before you take me to the upper room, Lord. Just give me about 45 minutes to get everything together. So I don't want nobody talking about me while I'm in my casket and I can't hear nothing.
Right. I said, I got to straighten up this house. They're going to come here and they're going to talk about me. So I literally straightened up my house. I kissed my children and I drove myself to the emergency room.
Oh, wow.
And when I got to doctor's hospital, they immediately rushed me into surgery. The next day, I felt great after the surgery. And 2 days later, we had a health fair coming up. And so everybody was like, cancel the health fair. It'll be fine. And so my dad was like, you're going to cancel the health fair, right? And I was like, yeah. And so my dad ended up going home. My dad lives in Elberton, but he comes to help out. And so 2 days after my surgery, he went home. So soon as he got in his car, I got in my car. And I went to the health fair. I never told anybody I was canceling. So I can remember.
Snuck off to the health fair.
I can remember limping around at the health fair because when I got there, I guess the pain blocks had worn off and I didn't feel great anymore. And I met some awesome volunteers that was like, you don't look good. You need to sit down. And so I actually laid on a table at the event and was telling people, do this, do this, do this, do this. And the doctor had specifically told me to rest. Don't work, don't do anything, rest. And so I did not listen. And this is even after having emergency surgery. So 2 weeks later, I rented a van and I took my children to Orlando and we walked all over SeaWorld. We walked all over Universal. We walked all over Disney.
Wow.
And while there, I told my best friend, I said, I think I overdid it
You
because
think you just a little bit. You think you did it just a little bit.
I said, because I am not feeling good and I am back in pain. And so when we got back from Orlando, I went back to the doctor and I'm like, yeah, I know I didn't listen, but I am in excruciating pain. And like I need to see the specialist. So he was able to make some calls. He got me into see the specialist like at the very end of July. And the guy said, well, the bad news is you didn't let yourself properly heal from the first surgery. And you're going to have another surgery. He was like, but unfortunately, right now, due to COVID, operating rooms are closed unless it's a life or death situation. So you're just going to hang in there until we can get an operating room closed, and then I'll schedule you a surgery. Um, and the type of injury that I had, there's no pain medicine that can touch the pain. Like not even morphine. Like they gave me morphine at the ER, and I was still crying because it just couldn't touch the pain. Um, so I actually went home, and in the next month or so, I had gotten so bad that I could not get out the bed. My dad had to move in and take care of my children. My best friend also moved in to assist my dad with taking care of me because I could not do anything for myself. I literally could get up and go to the restroom and get back in the bed. And so for 2 months, all I could do was lay in the bed and pray. And the pain would get so bad that I couldn't sit. So I would have to lay in the car and my dad would take me to the doctor. So I can remember in September of 2021, the doctor came out to the car because I could not get out to go in. And I said, this will be my last day coming here because it is too painful for me to come back. I have made my peace with this situation and I have told the Lord to take me, and I want my dad to take care of my children. And so the next day, the guy called and he said, I was able to get you scheduled for emergency surgery. And so I had emergency surgery. Um, they told me it was a 2 week recovery. 2 weeks later, I was back in the hospital because the surgery didn't go well. And I can remember telling my dad, like, just leave me here. I'm tired of being a burden to y'all. Just I don't want to be here anymore. And I can remember him saying, like, we prayed for this. We prayed for the operating rooms to open, and God did that for you. And he was like, the same God that put every single star in the sky has already healed you. Now I need you to get it in your mind that you are healed, or you'll never get up from this bed. And he was like, I can believe for you all day, but you got to believe in the healing for yourself.
Amen.
And
Come on, Daddy.
that lit a fire in me that I want to live. I want to get well. And so every day sitting in that hospital, I began to speak those healing scriptures over myself. And September the 25th, I was so before I was released, the doctor came in and they told me that in addition to, I had to get some Botox injections. And so I'm like one in 100,000 people that the poison that they injected in me didn't sit well with my body. And so it messed with my kidneys at the time. So they told me that I was going into kidney failure and that I would have to start seeing a neurologist for possible dialysis. And I was like, okay. And so after getting out of the hospital and going to see the neurologist, I remember being in the room and the doctor came in and they looked at the paperwork and they said, I'll be right back. And I said, okay. And so he came back with somebody else and they were looking and through the paperwork and the lady said, we'll be right back. And I said, okay, God, you brought me this far, whatever it is, I know that you've already got it handled. So the doctor who actually came to see me in the hospital to tell me, like, I'll be your neurologist, and this is what dialysis is, and this is how we'll handle it. So he came and he said, hey, do you remember me from the hospital? I'm like, yeah. You're the doctor who came in and told me to come here. And he said, when we saw you in the hospital, your kidneys were at less than 13% functioning. He said, we redone the test several times today, and you're in the green as far as green can be.
Amen.
And we don't see that. That doesn't happen. And I can remember crying and shouting because I'm like, God gave me a second chance at life, and I'm not going to mess it up. And so from that day forward, I can remember saying, like, I'm going to practice self-care. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to say no. I'm going to put myself first. And that's before everybody. And so now I kind of think of myself as a teacup. Everything that's in my cup, that's for me. And what spills in the saucer, that's the overflow. That's what everybody else can now get. Because when I continue pouring out of my cup and I become empty, and then that's what gets me in the hospital. That's what gets me having these emergency surgeries, because I try to step in and do God's work when he ain't called me to save everybody.
Said that ain't my ministry. that ain't your ministry.
Right.
I ain't supposed to, that's not my ministry.
Right. I'm only supposed to be doing what he
Oh,
has me to do. And so that's my testimony for SWAT. That's how I'm connected to SWAT, as a servant with a testimony, because that's my testimony.
That is absolutely amazing. And I never would have got that. I'm so glad you're here today. I never would have got that from you at all. You just be going and moving. But now I completely understand why. Because you had a second chance at life. So when you get that second chance, you like, I'm all gas, no brakes.
That's right.
All gas, no brakes. What can we do for the community? How can we help? How can we help you? Let's look at these numbers. I get it now. And I so appreciate that about you, and appreciate that your testimony. And it's so, and so you've been good for the past couple of years.
So actually, in 2022, I actually had emergency surgery the exact same day as I did in 2021. However, this is the thing. The first time I was in kind of like disbelief, like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to me. Like, God, I'm out here serving the people. Like, you gonna let this happen to me? This time I said, God, I trust you. I don't know what this is or what weapon is trying to form against me, but I know it won't prosper.
Amen.
So whatever these folks say they need to do to help me, you be with them, Lord, while they do it, so I can get out of here and get back out there for you. And I had emergency surgery the 25th, and like 2 weeks later, I was fine. I haven't had a surgery since, because as I said, I've been making sure that I'm first. And that's before anybody, even my children. When they say, Mama, I got a project due tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's 8 o'clock at night. If I don't have the time, then I don't do it, because I have to make sure I put my mental and my physical health first, because I'm no good if I can't take care of you.
Very true.
I have to put me first. And that's before anybody. And that's even sometimes having to say no to something in the community, although I'm dying in the inside to go and serve. Sometimes I have to say, I'm tired.
That's amazing.
My body has told me that I have to rest. I really want to come and support you, but I just cannot. My body cannot do it. And I have to say, like, my plate is full right now. Right. And I have to learn that that's okay.
So what's next? What is absolutely next for you? I'll do it this way. What's next for you personally? Mm-hmm. And then what's next for you as far as SWAT and Influencer?
Okay.
Well, yeah, because Influencer is in her 4th year.
Yes. So what's next for me personally is my baby's leaving Friday. So say some prayers for me as I take her to Kennesaw and leave, because for the last 8 years, they've been my 3 amigos. So to have one leave, the dynamics of my house will definitely change. So that's what's next for me personally. And also, I've been debating with myself, do I want to go and get my doctorate's degree? So that's why I am kind of personally right now.
When will you have time? When will you have time? We'll make the time, but
I don't know. So that's why I'm debating with it. I'm like, do I really have time to go after this doctorate degree right now? I don't know. But that's what I got brewing up for myself personally. What's coming up next for me with SWAT and influencer? One of the biggest thing that's coming up for me is I am an adjunct professor now at Augusta Tech, and
Congratulations.
thank
I saw that.
you.
Congratulations.
I am teaching grant writing right now there. And so we start our next class next Tuesday. So that is what's also next for me for SWAT. We also have expanded this year to serve in Burke County. So our next school supply and wraparound service distribution will be August 31st in the Burke County area. So I'm really excited about that. And then what's next for influencer is August the 21st, we start up our annual training sessions for the women who are in that group. We provide monthly training services for women to make sure that we're helping them not only start their business but actually maintain it. So many people start a business, but then now what?
Yeah.
So we provide a monthly training from August to May to make sure that we're helping to fill those gaps with what women actually need. We're also taking a cruise this year. We're cruising for a cause for influencer to celebrate our 5th year. So I'm really, really excited about that. And then next year in June, Influencer Awards will be on the horizon. So we never know what that color may be. I always wait till God puts it in my spirit on what it needs to be. Everything that we do is always intentional. So that's what we got coming up.
That's a full plate. That's a full plate. But now I wanted to get to you about getting to the bag. And when I talk about getting to that bag, it's about nonprofit and how to get the grants. And I wanted to ask you, as someone who has a nonprofit and is learning how to write these grants, what is the number one thing that's a huge mistake for people who are trying to write grants? What's the biggest mistake they can make?
One of the biggest mistakes that they can make is people feel like they can start a business or a nonprofit without any capital. It's not true. I don't know of many startup grants out here that are easy enough to obtain that you can come out and get without having any numbers, without having any proof that you actually know what you're doing. A lot of people want a $200,000 grant to start a business or to start a nonprofit with no experience. And so I like to tell people, like, are you fundable? Like, you have to know when you're going after this money, are you funding ready? That's the biggest mistake.
So when you say fund, what do you mean by funding ready? Because most people say, well, are you fundable? Yeah, yes, because I do this and I do that. But what do you mean when you say fundable?
So there's a lot of things when it comes to are you fundable? Like, are you actually an entity? A lot of grants that are being distributed, they can't go to an individual. So if you're waiting on the grant to actually start your business, you're not even in position to receive it. So grants cannot go to individuals. That's the first thing. You got to be an entity.
So lesson number one: get your paperwork in order.
Right.
Get your paperwork in order.
Paperwork in order. I feel like, having a business without the proper paperwork is just like driving without a license. It's dangerous. Don't do it. Don't do it. The second thing is also having, like, do you have a business checking account open? So many people operate a business out of their personal banking account. Don't do it. And when you do that, you don't even have any financials to show that I'm capable of doing this. So that's the second mistake. And then not having any visibility. And not just in the community. Like, do you have a website? Do you have a social media for what it is that you're doing? You have to have all of these things in place before you even start asking people for money. You can't say, give me $200,000 for this idea in my head, and I haven't put any steps in place to even do the idea. it just doesn't work like that. I haven't seen it work like that.
That's a lot. It's like, more or less, it's just make sure you have your paperwork straight and have and be visible.
Yes.
So people can see you. You may have to do the groundwork yourself first.
Right.
So that you can have that data and have that information that you talk about, the quantifiable proof that this is what you're doing and this is how you're doing it and this is how you affect everybody. Sometimes it may take a little sweat equity of your own. You can't wait. You may not be able to wait on a grant.
Right.
You might need to get on out there and figure it out.
That's
you
right.
can pull a couple of your own dollars together.
That's right.
And then do the work, and then the money will follow you.
Absolutely. Maybe. And I think the second mistake is people think I'll be able to run my business or my nonprofit strictly off of grants. That's not so. You got to have some other revenue coming in besides grants to be able to do this.
Maybe through donations and
donations, sponsorships, personal investors. Like there's so many other ways to get revenue, fundraising besides just relying on grants only. It ain't gonna happen. I can tell you that right now.
Is it feasible as a nonprofit to be able to? You hear about it a lot of times where people say, "Oh, I'm able to fund myself and my staff." Through my nonprofit organization. Is that feasible? Is that an anomaly? That's maybe 1 in 15 nonprofits able to do that? Or
I think as nonprofits grow and they become more visible in the community and they begin to obtain bigger grants, then they're able to fund the staff. But it depends on the funding. Some funders will say, this needs to go directly to the people who you're impacting. You cannot pay any salaries. So it depends. So that's why a lot of times people like unrestricted donations because they can pay salaries with that. Versus if you get an operational grant that says, well, you can't pay any salaries. So as you grow and expand, there are opportunities where you can fund staff.
That's interesting. And you do a nice thing on Fridays. It's what's called Funding Fridays.
Yes.
You give a nice little nugget every Friday. You talk about, hey, there's this grant over here. You got to be a part of Influencer to see that. Am I right?
So every Friday I do what's called Funding Friday. I drop grant writing tips and tidbits on where you can find grants. Sometimes I post the actual grant, or sometimes I talk about grant writing classes, opportunities that are coming up. And so I've started to also post that on my personal page as well, just to get more awareness for people who aren't in influence. So like men, for example, men also like grant funding opportunities, or I work with men. So to also give them the opportunity to actually be a part of that, I've now started to post it on my page because men are like, hey, can I get an influencer? I won't post nothing. I just want to look at the information. So now I'm trying to be more aware that, hey, I do serve men too, just not through influencers. So I try to post some of that stuff on my personal page where people can follow me on Facebook at Marquitta Rucker and they can see it there as well.
Yes. So how hard has it been? Because you're not from Augusta, you know. You have roots in Georgia, in Athens. You're not from Augusta. You didn't go to, I don't want to say no high schools because I don't want nobody DM me. Please don't be in my inbox. And I ain't going to say no churches. But you didn't go to the popular high school. You didn't go to the popular churches. You weren't in the popular circles. So how difficult was it for you to be able to do all the work that you're doing? How long did it take you to get in and to be taken seriously?
I don't think there's ever a timeline of, I don't know what's considered to be in or popular, because I do know that Augusta can be cliquish, and I love y'all, Augusta. But certain things can. But what I will say, this is what I'll say. When people know that you're genuine and that your intentions are really to serve, it's never about popularity. It's always purpose. And when people know you have a purpose, it doesn't matter who thinks you popular. It doesn't matter who thinks you in, because God will give you the provision for the vision.
Amen. You better say that.
He gave you.
Let me get my tithes and offering out. Hold on.
That's just my thoughts on it. I see people a lot of times they'll say like, well, Augusta's a popularity contest. People don't support you if you popular. I just feel like you got to stay consistent and be persistent, because to me, anybody can be consistent when things are going good. It's what you do through those adverse times. Like, what do you do when things get hard? Are you no longer consistent? So to me, the key is being persistent.
And that's a very true fact. Most people that know me, I know I'm from New Jersey, and I came here via military, and so I don't sound like certain things I say. I don't sound like people from Augusta or whatever, and so I've never had the challenge of in all the years of me doing boutique work and all the other stuff I've done. I've never had the challenge of who is she and what's she doing. They have watched me over the years, and the more that they see you, the more they say, okay, well, she's for real.
Absolutely.
So that's been my experience as well. But I've also seen others who've had challenges to get into the Augusta circle, if you will, and they just had to work a little bit harder. And like you said, being consistent and persistent, never quitting and pivoting when you need to.
Absolutely.
Sometimes everything ain't going to go the way you want it to go, but you got to keep your head on swivel sometimes.
That's
You
right.
got to pivot.
That's
Be like,
right.
this ain't it.
That's
Let me
right.
turn this way. How about now? How
That's
about
right.
now? How about now?
That's
Until
right.
you figure out what works for you. That's definitely been my experience, and that's how I ended up here at Thick Thighs Matter podcast, because this works for me. And I appreciate everything that you've dropped today.
Thank you for having me. I'm
listen,
really excited.
listen, this was so fun because I really learned some things about you today that some would say, oh, you should have researched and known that. But to be honest with you, I didn't research not anything today on you. I just wanted to come and hear what you had to say and just be able to listen and say, I just want to know her from that point of view. I could have easily read these things, but I didn't want to. I just wanted to hear your heart, and I wanted to hear what you had to say about you.
Well,
and
thank you.
I'm so impressed. I just want to sum it. I'm so impressed with your young girls. I'm going to reach out to a few of them about that board, about them books, about that lemonade, about that pound cake. What's that secret recipe in that pound cake? Everybody say their grandmama got a secret recipe in the pound cake. Everybody say that. I got to taste it and see.
Ooh, come on through.
I got to taste it and see what this secret recipe is, and you guys should want to taste it and see too. And you want to get and support these young women. Her daughter is 8 years old and has a nonprofit, and it's not a nonprofit that her mama said this is what you gonna do. This is what her heart said. This is what you gonna do, and she is giving out 1,000 books. Do she take used books?
Yep.
So if you have old books that y'all listening, if you have old books, now everybody that's a mama, you got some books on your shelf that your child is grown past.
Used books, we sure do.
Exactly, that your child has passed. I have a couple of books on my shelf. My daughter's 8. There's certain books, fish, dog, cat. We passed that. So I know I got a box or two that I can definitely donate. And I'm going to make sure I give them to Peanut. And you guys, if you have some books out there that are used books that your child is not using anymore, and you want to find a good place to put, good ground, put your seed in good ground, I really do suggest you just reach out to, what's the name of her business?
Peanut's Reading Corner.
Peanut, we got you, Peanut. We got you, Peanut. And then the other one is with the, which one daughter is that with the lemonade and the?
Emily Rucker. She has a lemonade and pound cake business called Emily's Sweet Shop. They all have their own Facebook pages that you can follow on social media. And then my oldest is M.A.'s Collection.
We're definitely going to support these women because this is amazing, especially going to college. She got to have her money on the side, honey. You got to do it because it costs to educate these days.
You're right.
It costs to educate. Listen, thank you so much.
Thank y'all for having me.
This is Marquitta. If you don't know her, I hope that you've gotten to know her today. This is Marquitta Rucker here at the Thick Thighs Matter podcast, baby. Cause these thighs, honey. Look, listen. She puts it down for Augusta in the CSRA. She's amazing. follow her on it. You know what? You go ahead. What are all your handles that anybody can reach out to you on?
You can follow me on Facebook, Marquitta Rucker. We also have Instagram at SWAT Foundation. If you are a woman-owned business, you can also join Influence Her on Facebook. You can email us if you have any questions or concerns at m.rucker@swatfoundationinc.org.
That's it?
That's it.
Listen, this is Kimberly Beasley, and this is Marquitta Rucker with Thick Thighs Matter Podcast, and we're out. Thank you.
Yay.
Yay.
Embrace your body, the most precious on earth. Thick thighs matter, don't you see? Beauty in all shapes has a key. Confidence in every stride. Thick thighs matter, let your light shine.